All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. If you are here in our Zoom room, or if you are watching on our Facebook page, or if you're watching later on our recording, I am grateful that you're here and decided that you wanted to know a little bit more, hear a little bit more about what we're doing and what we're talking about when we talk about Kaleo. So anyway, my name is Nathan Wheeler, and I'm the coordinator of youth and young adult ministries for the Cumberland Presbyterian Church. And I am one of the co-directors of Kaleo.
And I'm Melissa Malinowski. I am a minister in the Cumberland Presbyterian Church, and I'm the other co-director of Kaleo.
And as far as the program, when I started at the center back in 2015, I really wanted to do something to help young people when it comes to thinking about God's call in their life. I wasn't 100% sure what that would look like, and so I started having conversations and looking up different things that were happening in our in the world when it comes to discerning call when you're that young. One of the reasons why I was interested in it is because when I was 16 years old is when I kind of first felt God's call on my life at a church camp, and I just felt like our denomination as a whole was really good at nurturing and talking about call with young people who were experiencing that, who wanted to serve in a congregation, particularly to serve as a pastor in a church. And, you know, at 16 years old, I certainly didn't feel like I was going to be a reverend. That's not necessarily what I thought. I just knew that I felt this nudge that whatever I was going to end up doing in life, it was going to have a faith component. It was going to be wrapped up in my relationship with God. And as time moved on, I started to learn more about what that looks like. And now I feel like I'm kind of in that place. But ultimately, when I was 16, I didn't really have much point of references on how to discern a call. You know, I'd heard about call, but I didn't really know how to discern it. And so that was kind of where I was coming from and where I leaned into. And then I started to discover there was other programs that were doing kinds of theological reflection, and that's where Melissa came in, and we started having conversations about that. So, Melissa, did you want to share more?
Sure. When we started talking, I worked at Memphis Theological Seminary, so I was really interested in seeing how young people could end up going to seminary because, like Nathan, I was called into ministry at a young age. And I was probably 17 instead of 16, like Nathan. But at that point, I thought I wanted to be a
I had
youth
better
minister.
years, you know.
Yeah,
I was
you were
more
earlier. You were
godly back
bloomed
then.
earlier. But at that point, there was only go into the ministry and be ordained. But there are organizations that talk about calling in a much broader sense. And I found the Forum for Theological Education, and they've been doing this for years, helping young adults and young people explore their call and how God calls you to a vocation, not necessarily to ministry in a church, but to a vocation, a life of serving God wherever you find yourself. And we applied for a grant, and we received that grant to do the first Kaleo experience.
Yeah, and you know, we use that money to help students join the program free of charge. We used it to develop the curriculum that we helped develop with the pastoral development ministry team. We used it to do our first Kaleo immersion experience, which happened in Memphis, Tennessee in 2017. And we paid for meals and lodging and transportation all through that grant. And that's what it was there for, to get our program off the ground. So anyway, we figured, you know, at this point, this will be our third time doing it. But, you know, I still think it's fairly new. Not everyone necessarily knows the ins and outs. So as far as Kaleo and how it works, is basically any young person who is 15 to 20 years old. And that means, they turn 15 by January 2021 when the program begins. So if they're 14 right now, it's fine as long as they're 15 by that time to 20. And we basically allow anyone to apply and be a part of the program. At this point, we haven't gotten to a place where we've had to like pick and choose. We've thankfully just had enough to make the program go, and it's been good that way. We would love to get to a place where we have 40 and 50 young people who want to explore and be a part of the program. But for right now, typically we're having around 10 to 15 be a part of Kaleo in a given year. And so you would apply and go through the process. We have it to where you apply, and then you also have a parental and a pastoral acknowledgement form that you get to fill out. And really, the idea is we don't want you who are participants to be exploring your call and having this draw to do that on an island. We want you to be able to do that in community. And so that's why we have this Kaleo program with other participants. That's why we have you matched up with a mentor, which we'll get to. And that's why also we want your parents to be on board and know what you're getting yourself into, and also your pastor or your church community to know that there's some young person in our church that's feeling drawn to explore their call. We want everybody to be on board to know that that's what's taking place. We think that's important. So you would apply, you would fill out a couple of forms, and then once we get through that, we'll have a conversation, and then we'll typically at this point we accept people into the program to be a part of it, and then we go into the process, which is trying to find a fit for a person to be your mentor. And the mentor is there to not tell you what your call is. They're not there to tell you how to do it. They're there to, one, share their experiences on what it's like for faith formation as you get older and how their discernment processes work, but also to help you think through, help you get ideas, help you discern over a year time on what that's like. We hope that you build a relationship. We hope that you have a chance to share stories and to hear what God has been doing in their life, but also to have someone to conversationally speak with about what it looks like to have a call and all the things that go through it. Because it's not a straight line. There's lots of valleys and lots of hills and twists and turns when it comes to that. So you would apply, get accepted. Then we would start working on getting a mentor for you. And then the program would officially begin in January of 2021. And the idea is that you would meet with your mentor once a month. And it varies. Sometimes you can do that. Sometimes it needs to be every other month. But we've set it up to where we want you to meet at least once a month throughout the year, except for June and July. We have those months off because we do something else during that time period. So in January, you would hopefully meet with your mentor. Obviously, at this time, we would have it set up to where you would just meet online to start with, unless something works out where we're in a different place by that time. But for right now, it would be online. And so you and your mentor would meet up, and there's a curriculum that we've developed. And basically, you would get the curriculum and the mentor, and you would just walk through it. And the curriculum itself has two different sections for each month. The first section is a biblical call story. So a story from the Bible where someone's called by God and that story, and then some reflection on that. And then there is a personal reflection story. So people in our churches and people outside the church that are Cumberland Presbyterian who have felt God's call to be a teacher or to be a therapist or to be a minister or whatever it is, they write their personal call story. Patrick's here, and his wife Jessica, she's written her call story. That's one of the stories we have in the curriculum to talk about her, processing with Patrick on being a missionary in Colombia. So that's one of them, just so you kind of get a feel of what the curriculum. So it's set up in that way to where you would have a biblical call story and a personal call story, and you would go through this curriculum with a mentor each month. That's the idea with the curriculum. Another piece of the program is once you get accepted, or once you apply and you get accepted, you get matched with a mentor and you start that. Another piece along with the curriculum is over that next year, you will be developing some sort of project. Now, a lot of times when we tell the applicants about the project, they're like, yeah, that sounds great. And then we get about 3 months in and they're freaking out and like, oh my God, project. They're thinking of school. If they're in college, they're thinking dissertation or whatever the heck. It's not like that. That's not how this works. It is just a way to practically move towards what you feel like God is calling you to. We don't want it all to be head. We don't want it all to be like theoretical. We want it to be something that you're actually moving towards doing, dipping your toes in, for lack of a better term here. So you would develop that with the help of your mentor and also with the help of your other participants when we get to the next piece, which is every summer that we have Kaleo, typically in the summer, and we've been doing it in July most of the time. In July, we would gather all the participants and Melissa and I and some other adults together at one location, and we would have kind of a 3 or 4 day retreat where not only are we hearing about each other's calls and processing that stuff together through another curriculum that we have on site, but also it's a way to help you kind of work on your project and make it more tangible. So when you leave that summer project, you're able to actually have some tangible ways on how to not only think about call, but to practice your call. So you would apply, you would get accepted. We'd match you with a mentor. You'd start meeting with your mentor. You'd go through some curriculum. Then we would have an immersion experience in the summer. We hope by summer 2021 we can gather together in person. And then you would be working on your projects. And then the second half of the year would be meeting with your mentor, going through the curriculum, but also kind of completing that project. And we have some former participants, so I think that they would be able to tell you a little bit more about what that actually looks like. But that's kind of the general overview of the program and how it kind of functions and how it works, knowing that each individual and their mentor would kind of plan around their schedules on what's best on as far as meeting up to be in dialogue or whatever around the curriculum. But that's kind of the general overview of how Kaleo works throughout the next year. Melissa, did you have anything to add to that?
I don't think so.
Great. Ah, sufficient. Anyway, so you might be wondering to yourself, besides Nathan quit talking, the second thing you might be wondering is, how much does it cost? I'm glad you asked that. Well, the first time we did it, we had a grant. And then we didn't have a grant anymore. So we had to figure out ways because we want it to be where it's open to anyone, where you don't have to come up with a lot of money because, based on the meetings and the curriculum and the emergent experience, it costs money to do that. We have figured it cost around $500 for the program over the span of the year. And that money is used, like I said, to work on the curriculum, to work on the projects for the immersion experiences. We sometimes are able to get Kaleo participants a couple of books that we think are helpful as far as discernment goes and things like that. When we're at the immersion experience, we might have a few outings or we're paying for meals and stuff like that. So that's what all the money covers. It covers your full year-long program.
$500 per person.
Per person, yeah. And so the way that we have had that work out so far, and our hope is it continues to be that, is one, once you apply and you're accepted, we work towards what it looks like for you to be able to pay for that program. And most of the time, so far, we've been able to partner with local presbyteries. So whatever presbytery you're a part of has fronted you or paid for you to be a part of the program. So we're thankful for that. We've had a few churches who maybe their presbytery was unable to pay for all or any of the program. So we would go to your local congregation and ask, is there any way that you would support this member of your church to be a part of this program? So those are the couple of ways we've been able to do it. We do typically ask the participants to donate $100 over the span of the year. And that money, we hopefully in time, as the program grows, we're putting that towards an endowment that will just be self-sufficient and will help to pay for this down the road. Melissa and I are also still looking into grant opportunities and things like that as well. So it's not just on the participant to find the money. We try to help you find a way to pay for it. And so far, we haven't had any problems with people who were unable to find a way to pay for it. We haven't had that yet. So I think we'll be able to find a way pretty much in this time. Now, again, if it gets to like 40, 50 people, local presbyteries aren't going to be able to pay for 10 people out of their presbytery. Right now, we kind of tell them, 2 out of your presbytery. And we're fortunate that we have a few that have just partnered with us and contribute on a yearly basis to do that. So that's how that kind of gets paid for and works out. As far as the rest of it goes, I think I've kind of explained how the program works and what it costs. I think it would be good to hear from people who've done it. So I'm just going to kind of open that up. I see a few of you here. I will just call on you. How about that? It's much easier to do that. So I see Emily in the center of my screen. So Emily Geralds, she was a part of our Kaleo program in 2019. And so Emily, if you would just share briefly about your experience with your mentor, who that might have been, what you did, and then also any reflections you have on your time and maybe how it's helped you discern your call.
All right, my mentor was Will Arnold. It really like bonded us like closer, like we were already good friends, but it was just good to have that person to be able to go to all the time, and we are bonded closer through Kaleo. I beginning I guess that was my senior year, and like I had no idea what I was gonna be or what I was gonna do. Like even through the Kaleo project, like I had no idea until about after. And just recently, I knew I wanted to do something with children. Like the Kaleo project did help me like find like what I was passionate about, and so now I have decided I'm going to do children's ministry, and so that has helped me, I guess, in a way to help find my calling now. One thing that I really liked about the Kaleo ministry was that we had a project that we had to do, and it wasn't just like doing like little going through the book and like doing all the things. Like we had like a big project we had to we got to pick ourselves and just make whatever we wanted it to be. And I really enjoyed being able to do that. I guess and I guess the gathering was one of my favorite parts, just not only because it drew me closer to those girls that I got to do that with, and because it was only girls that year. But yeah, I think that's all I got.
That's great. Thank you so much, Emily. Lacey Grace Young, would you share with us?
Yeah, so my mentor was Abby Prevost. And so that was really cool because we were also already pretty close. Both being from Alabama, all the CPs in Alabama are really close already. So yeah, it was just really fun. I agree with Emily. It was nice to bond with your mentor in a way you just would have never expected. You end up learning a lot about each other and a lot about each other's stories and callings and just everything. It was really great. And yeah, the project is not something that anyone should be worried about. I know when I first heard it, I was like, oh no, like a project, like, oh my gosh, like, is it going to be good enough? Like, what is everyone else going to come up with? And my quote unquote project, I still am doing to this day. It never really stopped with Kaleo. I kind of felt my calling before Kaleo, to youth, like I feel called to youth ministry. So I came into Kaleo knowing that that's what God called me to do and that's what I wanted to do, but I didn't know how to live it out. So for me, Kaleo more so helped me, and Abby and Nathan and Melissa all helped me just think about where I could take that.
Hit the space bar.
You're good. So that was just really cool, and being able to come together at the end of it all with everyone else participating in the program was really great, because it was just comforting to know that I wasn't the only one feeling doubts and feeling certain ways, although, you know, it may have seemed like it, you know, just meeting with your mentor, obviously it's different meeting with an adult than it is meeting with people your age who are going through the same things and questioning the same things and feeling the same things. So yeah, I really loved it. Everything about it was so great, and I can't wait to see where it goes from here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And Sarah.
Hello, I'm Sarah Rackley. I'm from Georgia, not from Tennessee. Um, and I had felt a call to youth ministry the year before, but I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do with it, similar to Lacey. My mentor was Joanna Simmerman, and I did not know her very well beforehand. I had met her at CPYC, and she was one of my small group leaders, but she wasn't in my presbytery originally, so we got to know each other really well, and it was a really good thing that I got to know her better. My project is actually still ongoing. Our presbytery did not have a very strong camping program, so I set up the plans to create a subcommittee to help the Christian Education Board with planning camps and retreats for youth and young adults and children. And then they created the board and made me chair. So we are still going strong. It's really fun, and I didn't expect to like the planning aspect as much as I did. And having Joanna as my mentor really helped me get all of the language in place for it, and stuff like that. So, and the retreat was really great. I did not know a lot of people there because I am from Georgia and everyone else was from Tennessee or Alabama. So getting to know those people was really great, and now I go to school with some of them, and having Kaleo really helped me get to know them a little bit better.
Thank you, Sarah. Each of you, I want to say you applied were all of you seniors in high school when you applied? Yeah. And that's not always the case. We've had people as young as, I think, 10th grade. And then we've had people who are a couple of years into college. So it's not just for people who are transitioning from high school to college, though I would say for a lot of younger people, that is when you're really kind of honing in on like, hey, I'm taking the next step. Like my goal in life so far has been high school, like get to that and then graduate from that. And then you kind of move from there. So it's really interesting to hear how you all are still processing those things. And I think for me, one of the things I'd want people to know is that we don't set this up so by the end of the year, 100% what you're going to do for the rest of your life. Our hope is that God moves us in all types of different directions through our lives. And at least you'll have some tools, some things to pull from in a community of people that you've bonded with over time to, again, discern what it is that God might be calling you throughout your life. because I do think that changes throughout time. So I hope that people can pull from the experiences they have in Kaleo. One thing I didn't say is the term Kaleo. It's a Greek term that means to call forth. So anyway, that's why we use that term. It's just a fancy way of saying what we've been talking about. Tiffany, I wondered if you would be interested to just share a little bit. You've been a mentor before, I want to say. Would you be willing to share just a little bit about what it was like to be a mentor?
Yes, it was the first year, and I was the mentor for Ellie Forrester. And I just echo what the other folks have said about what a meaningful relationship it established between us and helped us. It was helpful to me too. The curriculum is great to talk about people's different call stories, and what I hope, as a mentor I was able to be was a sounding board for Ellie as she discerned and thought about all kinds of different things. Her project was, I think she wrote a song, and so there's all kinds of different ways that you can do that, and it helped me to strengthen me in the way that I'm able to talk about my call, though I'm not doing a very good job right now. Anyway, I'm really excited. I'm a pastor in a church, and I'm also trying to encourage Ian here to be a part of the program. So that's why we're here.
Thank you, Tiffany, for sharing a little bit. And Melissa and I have both acted as a mentor as well. The first year, we actually split time because the person that we were mentoring didn't live close to us. We had to drive to meet with them. And so anyway, I hope that this has been helpful. I know that, sometimes it's hard to know, or difficult to know if, you read about it or you see pictures of it or people try to tell you about stuff. So I hope in some way this gives people perspective. Those of you who are here on Zoom or watching later, gives you more of a kind of a perspective. And one of the things I did like that Tiffany, that you said, is that the project, and maybe we need to think of a better term, Melissa. I don't know what else to call it. I mean, it is a project. I don't know, but maybe there's a better term for it. But ultimately, it can be as involved like Sarah's, where she's the chair of a committee that she founded, or it could be as, as whatever it needs to be in order for you to tangibly live into your call a little bit. That's kind of the main gist of it. Yes, Patrick.
Call it a practicum.
A practicum. Oh, yeah. People know that term. Well, they don't know Kaleo either. We might as well use all terms that nobody has any clue what we're talking about. So that makes sense.
Practicum.
So, Patrick, did you have any questions or anything? Does anybody else have any questions or thoughts before we close out?
I mean, obviously, we're sitting here from Columbia, so some of the things like the cost and everything is way different for us. Like you say $500 and we think that's impossible. But also we wouldn't be attending in person, the retreat and stuff. Have you even been able, I know we just joined last minute for the meeting, but has that been part of the thought process of what that may look like for someone from outside the country?
Yeah. Melissa, you can share if you want to.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, we have. That was one of the reasons why we started with the grant, and we didn't use all of the grant. And then last year, with the money that we received for participants, we still have some funds through donations and stuff like that. So we're not at zero all the time. So we have a budget. We're just trying to make it to where it's as economical as possible moving forward into the future, because we don't want this to be a thing that happened 2 or 3 times. We want this to be something that happens for 50 years, 100 years. So yes, we have some other means and other ways as far as those discussions go. And ultimately, I don't know what it looks like because we haven't had somebody from another country. Like Sarah made a joke, but I mean, honestly, it has been pretty regional. But that's a part of our denomination, right? We're just very strongly concentrated in these few couple of places. But our hope is in time, it's very diversified. It's not just here in Tennessee or just in the Southeast. We hope that our whole denomination will be a part of it. And we want that to be wherever our churches and wherever our young people are feeling called. And maybe in time, it's something to where we have Kaleos not just operating here, but they're operating in other countries. If it grows so much, it would be cool to have, multiples going on at a time. But I don't, as of right now, we have not had finances be a burden or be a barrier. And I don't foresee that being a thing still. I think it's just more of just to let people know, like, it's not free in the sense of like, it costs money to do this, but it is not to be of a burden to the people that are participating in it. That's why we get funding and try to find it in other means and other mechanisms.
And I think, Nathan, when you said it was $500, that's kind of the cost that it entails for the program for each person to be involved in it. But no one who has been a part of it has paid $500. And I think what Nathan was saying is really no one has paid to be a part of it themselves. They've given the $100 donation if they can.
Mm-hmm.
And there have been times when that may not be possible, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You can still be a part of the program. That $100 was just to say, we want this program to keep going in the future, and we want to support it in that way. And it also, when you have to pay something, it gives you a reason to want to participate, to feel like that you have invested something into the program. And so that's part of why we've done that. But I don't think that anyone, finances shouldn't stop you from wanting to apply and be a part of it. And hopefully you could be a part of the whole program, even being an immersion experience. And next summer, we don't know what that will look like yet. We don't know what kind of immersion or experience at all that we can do. We'll have some kind of experience, but we just don't know yet.
Maybe we go to Columbia.
So that's it.
Found it.
There's money.
The participants here are like, wait a minute. We went to McKenzie. I think I'm going to re-enlist.
They're not too old, right?
Be a mentor.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay. Cool. Well, honestly, Melissa, do you have anything else that you'd want to say?
I don't think so. I think you pretty much covered it.
Okay. Well, again, thank you all so much for those of you who showed up to our Zoom, or those of you who watched on Facebook, or those of you who will watch later. We really appreciate you taking the time. Honestly, out of all the things that I get to do as a part of my position with the denomination, this is my favorite. Honestly, it's my favorite. I love the connections that you get to make. You get to see God working in people's lives in a much deeper way than you get to do maybe at a CPYC where you're seeing it from afar. I get to see up close. I get to connect with people and see what God's doing in their life. And I really, really love it because I know how formative and how much it matters at my age when I was 16 for people to come alongside me and help me. And so I hope that is what's happening in this program, and I hope it happens for years to come. And I would love to see young people be a part of it in 2021. So the last thing I'd want to say is if you know of any young person who would be interested in being a part of it, 15 to 20 years old, they can have a clue of what they feel like God's calling them towards, or they can have zero clue. That doesn't matter. they could feel like they're being called into the church to be a pastor or a youth minister or missionary or children's minister, or they could feel like God's calling them to be a coach or a fireman or a policewoman or whatever it is in life that they feel like God's kind of nudging them towards, and they feel like they have this semblance of idea of vocation in some way. We want to match that up. We want to nurture that and cultivate that in the best way we can. And I think we have a program to do that. So for any of you that are interested in participating, being a part of it, we'd love for you to apply. We'd love for you to share this with people. If you're interested in being a mentor, we'd love to hear from you as well. It might not happen this go around, but in time, we hope that our program grows and we have a need for many, many mentors, more people to walk alongside young people as they discern their call, I think would be a really, really good thing. Lastly, if anyone knows of anybody who has any other questions or anything like that, feel free to reach out to me. My email is nwheeler@cumberland.org. And then you can also message Melissa, and I don't know her email off the top of my head.
Oh, it's just too long. Just message. It's my name, and that's way long. So just message Nathan, and he'll let me know.
Message me, and I'll forward it to Melissa. If I don't like your questions, I'll forward it to Melissa. Only kidding. Only kidding. A little humor, a little jokes. Anyway, love seeing you all. Thank you for being a part of this and supporting us. And we look forward to seeing everybody in person when it's safe, and thankful for our time together online. Anyway, have a good evening. Thanks, y'all.